3-1 on the road against the New York Knicks. I can't even sit down right now. 100-94. The return of one Madison Square Cade. 33 points, 12 rebounds, 11 of 21 from the floor. And you know what? We got us a shooter game today. Hey, it's your boy Brandon Day, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid, your credential Pistons reporter and writer for the network, Anson Wells. And we got Platte, Chris Platte, our other Pistons correspondents here at the network.
What up,
I am so grateful to be covering this stuff with you guys. And we also got Rod in the building, too, who watched. He was here for the watch party. But I am so glad, man, to be able to watch the Detroit Pistons break a historic losing streak. They finally win their first playoff game since 2008.
18 years.
Bro.
18 years. And we had to wait 4.5 of them here at Woodward Sports.
But listen, one game.
That painful ending on Saturday, after we had played better than that team, we looked like the 3 seed for 3 quarters. Well, we came out and we were the better team for all 4 quarters. They're nervous Knicks at this point. I know their fan base is nervous. I hope all of you from New York have joined us once again for the Pistons postgame show. But I know that you guys are nervous.
They're nervous. Are we good over there, Platte?
We are good. We are good.
Yeah, I see it. Shout out to the chat family as well.
We are good.
Xavier D says this, real grit this game. And that was one of the keys to victory. We posted the 3 keys to victory, and I know Platte also posted the his game 2 keys. And where a lot of this overlaps, we all know because it's a part of their identity, is when you're talking about that grit. It's when you're talking about the physicality. It's them dictating the tempo and the pace on offense, but them also being first to the punch as it relates to their level of aggression. Yeah. And we saw that out of the Pistons all night. And you know what I loved about this? Platte's trying to get your attention. They slowed this game to their pace. They controlled this thing from start to finish, and when things got a little dicey at the end, it was realistically the pace of and control of Cade Cunningham and the wily old vet Dennis Schroeder really bringing this thing down and locking this game up down the stretch. And Jalen Brunson, hey, foul baiting didn't help him get a dub. And the Detroit Pistons, that defense, your number 3 team in defensive efficiency rating since February 1st, they hold an opponent in this era of playoffs under 100 points. The Knicks are in for a fight.
Yeah, and you know, you talk about gritty. I want to talk about being emotionally gritty because things weren't going bad. They were going unfair in that 4th quarter. We tried not to talk about the refs on Saturday. We could have, but this game was evenly called until that 4th quarter. They were down 13 in that 4th quarter, and it was only the refs that made this game respectable. But I have to tip my hat to this young team for being unflappable. When the calls weren't going their way, when the calls were egregious, they didn't care. They had that grit, and they came down, and they got it. They finished this one off. They didn't ever quite put the foot on the neck, but on the road, all you got to do is win.
Oh, yeah, and you know what? They reversed the trends. Some of the trends that we saw them become really more than trends and just a part of the identity of this team, things like the transition offense, having the most dunks, the number 1 lob connection between Cade and Duran, how they dominated in the paint, one of a top 5 team in NBA history at outscoring your opponent 30 straight games in the paint. And they gave up 62 to the Knicks in game 1, and they only had 46. In this game, the Detroit Pistons run it back with 46 points in the paint, but this time they hold the Knicks to just 40 points in the paint. It's a complete turnaround, and they got back to what has been a part of their identity, winning the game. And then turnovers, well, at least they didn't give up 25 points off turnovers, but they did give up still too many. 19 points off turnovers, 16 turnovers for the game. So you want to see them improve on that as the series moves back to Detroit. But in terms of the stats that show that physical, that toughness, the hustle, I saw a lot of that type of grit return to the Detroit Pistons team that was lost about the 8-9 minute mark of that 4th quarter in game 1.
Wasn't Cat supposed to go off tonight without Beef Stew?
Did he play the second half?
I don't know because he had 10 points and 6 boards.
I thought he had that at halftime.
Playoff Cat.
No, he had 10 and 2 at halftime, I think.
I mean, I think he had 6 and 2 at half. So,
okay.
So he went off to the tune of 4 and 4 in the second half. New York Knicks fans, that's who you traded the guys that got you to the Eastern Conference Finals for. 10
I still
and
can't sit down,
6.
bro.
And to be honest with you, all 10 of those shots were fadeaway, like crazy circus shots that somehow went in. I'm going to tell you right now, if they need Brunson and Cat to hit the shots that they've hit in these 2 games to win, nervous Knicks are in trouble, baby.
Listen, let the Pistons offense get going while Cade is also going. We haven't seen that combination yet in this series. We saw Cade go out there and put up efficient shooting numbers, and we saw him dominate. We talked about the paint. Cade has led this team in paint scoring a lot of games this year. And out of all the guards in the NBA, he's number 2 just behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at paint points. That's what you need. And you saw early on in this game, Cade aggressively decided, I'm attacking the paint. I'm getting to the rim. You guys are not going to stop me from getting my looks and put my team in position. And then you started to see some of the other guys in the second half start to pick up Cade just a little bit. And despite Malik Beasley not really hitting those threes, you're going to need those threes. He's a big part of this team's success. But they still, you can see how gritty they play on each and every possession. I like the defense. I like them being able to play, like you said, playing through the calls. Yeah. And J.B. Bickerstaff said, no, we're built for this. We're built for this. They got popped in the mouth, and now you see them be able to settle in. And do you understand how gritty and how gutsy and how one of those character wins of a game this was?
Yeah. You know, Chris, I'm going to throw this one your way. Ermanni and Edwards earlier today, I was with Stick. And, you know, we talked about Cade distributing and getting everybody involved in the first half. That's what we thought the key was going to be. Obviously scoring well and efficiently. But he didn't do that, and I think it's because he recognized that both Beasley and Tim Hardaway were struggling with that outside shot. And he just took it over. I got to ask you, did you think that Beasley and Hardaway could go a combined 1 for 10 from 3 and we'd win this game?
Yes, I really did, because you know what? I was expecting it because they played great in game 1, and I was expecting regression out of those 2 in particular, because that's the reason they're role players. If they did that consistently, they would be stars, but they're not. They're role players, and that's for that reason. You got to expect those ebb and flows, just like you got to expect that campaign is not Jesus Christ reincarnated. Like, you have to expect the realities of this, and so I knew that even if Beasley and Hardaway are shooting bad, that Cade Cunningham, the best player in this series, can get you a game. He can get you 1 game. He can get you 2 games in this series. You need your role players to step up. And the other big thing I brought to the table is I said it before the game. Will the real JD please stand up? And he did. He absolutely did. 12 points, 13 rebounds, 3 blocked shots. He was incredible in this game. A steal to go with that as well. So if you want to do stocks, he's got 4 of those things. He was
how
great.
I feel about them stocks, Mr. Platte.
What's that?
Yeah, so you know how I feel about them stocks, Mr. Platte. And you know what's interesting here about 1K? When we keep saying, well, we got Cade. Cade out-dueled effectively 2 MVP candidates on the Knicks in Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson.
Absolutely.
And this was something I was saying in the last game. It's always going to be a marriage of the 2. You remember the game 1 post game. Spinney's right. You need Broadway Cade, and we all know that. That was one of the keys to victory in game 1, and game 2 is going to be one of the keys to victory in every single Pistons game. But you do need those other guys to give you something. And if it's not scoring, you need them to be able to bring the physicality, to dictate things, because you're right. Why wasn't Cat down there? Think about it. Stu wasn't even in the game. Asar was in foul trouble. Yeah. These are your brutes. These are 2 of your best defenders on the team. These are some of your most versatile defenders from the 1 through the 5. Both of those players can defend those positions in a pinch. And for large parts of that game, you were without both of those players, and you still went out there and out physical. You still went out there and out toughed. You still went out there and said, even if you're not giving us the call, you still went out there, and if there's a ball on the ground, they were after it. These are the things that they weren't doing in the first game. So when the pressure started to mount up, it wasn't even really an opportunity, because that lead evaporated 98-93. It evaporated with Cade on the bench. And once they got ahead 5, 6, 7, it took the game out in a position to where a Cade bucket or 2, it wasn't going to matter. But tonight, the other teammates, defensively, they didn't cave, and offensively, they did just enough to be able to put the ball in Cade Cunningham's hand, and the Pistons were able to close this game out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Drago in the chat with the super chat.
Hey,
W's
Drago
in the chat. Man.
Well, look, man. We'll
did
do
it.
post game as long as they sitting in these chats. I'll go
right.
all the way to wake up Woodward. Sorry, honey.
Cade was fantastic. 33, 12, and 3 with 2 steals.
Yeah.
Had the 4 turnovers early, but he only had 1 turnover through the next 3 quarters. I've said it last week. I said it these last couple of days again earlier today. Depth and chemistry would get this team past the Knicks. They lost their chemistry in the 4th quarter on Saturday. They just got out of sorts. Their youth was exposed. And they only beat the Knicks in bench scoring 30-22. Tonight, 35-8 in bench scoring. And when the going got tough, these guys stayed tough mentally. And that was the difference to me. This young team absolutely could have handed this game over in the final 3-4 minutes when it got to a 2-point game. It was tied at one point. And this team rose above it. Chemistry, depth. We're going to see this team in the second round. This is like 87 and 02. We're going to lose to the Boston Celtics as our stepping stone. We're not losing to this first round.
And check this out, man. The Pistons shot 22.2% from behind the arc and only 44.6% from the floor. This means that this team wasn't broken by the fact that their shots weren't falling.
No.
And that's what you want to see. This team is always going to be based on all the hustle stats. That's why I love the fact that J.B. Bickerstaff stepped to the podium and he could have said, Cade Cunningham is our best offensive option. But no, every time he's been asked that question, he said, oh, no, defense offense is our best offense. The transition game is. And when you see that the Detroit Pistons are second in the league at scoring off transition steals, and that they are also one of your best, I believe second in the league overall at transition points, that's when you really like to see this team take advantage of those opportunities. They blew a couple of those in the first, but it allowed them to put the Knicks on their heel because they tried each and every single possession. So if Jalen Brunson is going to score, he's working. If Karl-Anthony Towns is going to score, he's working. I've been calling this out and tracking this every game. Put this in a couple articles as well. They do everything in their power to just make sure Cat is gassed by the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
He was gassed at the end of the first game, and he seemed like he was done by the time it was halftime. How do you go into a halftime, Rod? How do you go into a halftime and you come off the halftime gassed? Like you got a whole 15-minute break, Gatorade, secret sauce. Word to Dr. Pierce. What up, though, Rod?
Listen, man, I don't know what was going on with Cat in that second half, but
You called
you know what I'm saying? I'm going to shoot him a little bit of bail here. You know, we didn't beat them by much. This is not no double-digit win. You know, and to see Cat actually go out in the second half and not do anything at all is actually very surprising. So we cannot sleep on that because it's not like Cat a bum. You know what I'm saying? He's not a scrub. So for us to only win in the single digits and he didn't do that good, we got to keep it up in the second half. We cannot be loose. We cannot let up whatsoever. Like I told Chris, our bench is just so much better than Knicks is. And obviously that showed tonight. You know, like I said, our best defenders is coming from off the bench. So, and I think I just see a great future for us this series.
Hey, hold on real quick. Just High Def Steph is in the chat. That is one of the Detroit Pistons official DJs. Shout out to our guy. He's also a network friend of the show. Shout out to High Def Steph. $5 super chat.
There we
man.
go.
He says biggest shot of the game was the Dennis the Menace 3-ball.
Absolutely.
That's where I was going, man. Because you just mentioned depth, and I know, Chris, you were big on adding another ball handler to this team at the trade deadline.
Yeah, absolutely.
How crucial was Schroeder tonight?
Well, that's what I was saying during the game was that he is crucial for those moments and not just in the ways you saw in Game 1. In Game 1, he wasn't bad. He was playing good defensively. He was facilitating the ball, but you need that scoring punch without Jaden Ivey, and especially on a night when 1 of 14 combined from the floor with Hardaway and Beasley. Your shooters aren't giving it to. All you got is Unk and Cade right now offensively in that game. So Dennis stepped up, seized the moment, and did what a veteran does. And that was huge for this team. That was the thing I was screaming for. We were live when that trade happened.
Oh, yeah.
And he was originally going to Utah. And I was like, no. Reroute that.
You called it.
And, you know,
Cloudy made
it was
this
a
happen.
huge addition. It was a huge addition, man. You need that because, again, you need that scoring punch on some of these nights. And Schroeder sensed it, and he's more than willing stepped up to the plate And that was obviously a difference. You don't win this game without Schroeder. I mean, you said it. Down the stretch, Schroeder, Cade, Tobias, nobody else shoots.
Please.
Nobody else shoots. So
And you know what?
absolutely huge.
It seemed like, from JB Bickerstaff's standpoint, it seemed like he found a recipe that worked, and he kept going to it, and it was unconventional, but it worked, and they only had a little bit of time to try and figure this thing out. And I believe that you get Schroeder effectively in those Schroeder-Cade backcourt minutes, playing in some parts the role of an Ivy. Obviously not as athletic or as dynamic, but playing the same space, playing the same position. And I believe that you're seeing a lot of success here.
He did a great Ivy impression tonight. Really
Absolutely.
did. Slashing, defending, because Asar
the
barely got
defense,
to play
yo,
time
fouled
because
out.
he fouled out. And what he did, like, he's not an amazing one-on-one defender, but what he's so good at is utilizing his speed to just deny the ball. And you could tell Brunson wanted the ball early in possessions, and there was just so many times where he couldn't because of Schroeder.
Yeah, and you know what? Shout out to Andre Drummond, former Detroit Piston. He says, wow, amazing feeling watching this game, but the work isn't done yet. Hashtag Detroit basketball.
Shout out
I
to
see
the
some
big
people in
man.
the chat as well saying that they're going to be pulling up to Game 3. If you're going to be there, tap in with us, man. Detroit Kool-Aid. We got Chris Platte. We're going to
Yes,
be in
sir.
the building for Game 3, getting all the content that we can, both in the room, both with the fans, half court, all types of stuff. You guys, I'm serious. I think I'm going to have an opportunity for someone to get some
I'm going to
merch.
shoot my shot here real quick, all
What up,
right?
though?
Gary V, I saw you courtside, Game 1 and 2. If you're coming to Detroit, I think that you should have the Detroit heckler sitting next to you courtside. Huge V Friends guy, the greatest heckler in Detroit sports history, in the NBA's history. Come on out, man. Let me show you how it works downtown Detroit. But listen, Knicks fans, I know that they're nervous right now.
Absolutely,
Their
they
whole
have to be.
following, you could see the restlessness in the crowd all game. But we saw that through 3 quarters on Saturday, too.
Yeah.
I got to say, I think that this team is on the verge of maybe having a meltdown. Because if Cat comes into Detroit and struggles in Game 3, now you're looking at why the hell did we trade Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo when they got us to a conference finals and we're losing in the first round of the Pistons?
Absolutely, and burn with this super chat right on the money. A big advantage. Pistons had 9 extra rebounds, 53-44, and you know what? That margin was only 1 in Game 1. That has to be bigger. That's something that you expect the Pistons to. And I was saying it all throughout the stream. Just get to Detroit. Why? Because a lot of those calls that you saw, those ticky-tack calls,
Absolutely.
are not going to happen. And on top of that, this team is going to be physical. The role players are going to make shots. Ron Holland is going to feast off of the energy in that building. Stu will hopefully be back with an extra day rest. You have a lot to feel good about heading to Detroit for not 1, but 2 games. And so the Pistons, hopefully, Game 1, they learned their lesson because they've been the better team 7 of 8 quarters. 7 of 8 quarters in this series, they have been the better team than the Knicks.
We only had 3 guys play 31 minutes or more. They had all 5 of their starters, 33 minutes only for Cat. Not quite sure. He did have 4 fouls, but everybody else in the 40s. Mikal Bridges at 38. This team's going to break down if this series goes 6 or 7.
They can't
Period.
out-tough the Detroit
We
Pistons.
saw last
They don't
year.
match up
They
with the
had 2
Pistons on a
people left
physical
at the end of
standpoint.
last year.
Yeah,
They had 2
they've
people.
got to run to be able to keep up with us. But the big thing is the pounding and physicality of this Detroit defense. That's wearing them down just as much as them trying to get
Now,
out
how
and run.
demoralizing is it that Beef Stew wasn't in the game?
Oh, man.
How demoralizing is it that Asar Thompson has not been able to even sneeze to catch a rhythm right now?
B-ball Paul.
B-ball Paul.
Yeah, and but
That's
that's
hilarious.
what I'm saying, though. Think about it. You bring in a B-ball Paul who goes in, and he has an effect on this game, in a game in which, when we talk about, okay, we probably blew Game 1 and the good game that Tim Hardaway and Tobias Harris had. Well, talk about the chance that the New York Knicks just blew tonight. You lost a game in which the Detroit Pistons were effectively down 2 of their most important defensive players, and you lost that game. And when it got gritty, when it gets to that place that we know what the playoffs get to, the New York Knicks folded, and they're supposed to be the more experienced team. I believe in everything JB Bickerstaff said. Now, when he sat down after that Game 1 loss and stated, listen, these are just the learning curves, effectively, of playing in the playoffs. We got it. When Cade kind of said it's just basketball. Did you see his post-game presser? It's just basketball. I'm ready for game 2. Mm-hmm. He wasn't lying.
Mentally tough, man.
These guys are calling a shot and they knocking it out the freaking park. And I know it's just one game, and they have a lot. They have a lot that they have to do to make sure they can ensure that they have an opportunity to close this thing out and get to the second round. But everything that I saw from this Detroit Pistons team tonight, it exuded confidence. It exuded, oh yeah, this is what it was supposed to be the whole time. They didn't look rattled. The shots just weren't falling. They were getting shots down the stretch. They just weren't falling. And this team, though, they didn't get rattled.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest takeaways from tonight, is that from a physicality, toughness, and a confidence standpoint, this squad looks like they believe and they know that they're the better team in this series.
Yeah, and they had an absolute perfect opportunity to show their youth again tonight and give this one away. This team does not look like a team that's only played 2 playoff games in the last 6 years. This team looks like they've been to the second round, maybe even to an Eastern Conference. I mean, they just look like a better and more complete and mentally tougher team than the Knicks do right now. And this is why I've been asking for this matchup since early February, man. We're not ready for the Pacers, especially without Jaden Ivey. We really have a hard time matching up with Giannis and his Bucks. But this team was ripe for the taking. This is a team that is ready to be beat by a hungrier, younger, faster, more energetic Detroit Pistons squad.
I'll tell you this, man, the free throws tonight, Detroit Pistons got 34 attempts to the New York Knicks 19. And a large part of this has to do with the style of play that the Detroit Pistons employed. What was I saying? I've been saying this for a few years now. You have these athletic, speedy young guys. You have some players that can get out there and put pressure on the rim. And they started doing that this year to the tune of leading the league in several stats that are associated with offensive paint touches. And that's what I do believe. When you get all of that action going to the rim, we saw Ron Holland in his limited minutes even grab the rock off the wing and go straight to the basket. When you got your players like forcing the action, dictating the action, you're going to get more opportunities to go to the free throw line.
No doubt. Jalen Duren, 6 for 6 from the free throw line. And
he had a great game, dog.
Cade only had 5 trips to the stripe game 1. He had 12 tonight. Went 10 for 12, above his average just a bit. But that's the thing, is if this team settles for threes like they did a little bit in the fourth tonight, you know, I'm sorry, but I know Malik Beasley wants to shoot himself out of a slump, and that's what shooters do. But there has to be a little bit of a growth in this team in a close game like that to who is going to take the shots. And we saw Beasley firing in the fourth quarter. But like you brought it up, in those last few minutes, I think JB said, listen, there's 3 of you that I want shooting right now.
They knew it too. Everybody on the floor knew it. Even the Knicks. It was about just getting to it. Everybody knew that Cade Cunningham was going to be the guy taking the shots or initiating the plays, and they were denying him like crazy. They were hedging. New York's defense has been tough on Cade in game 1 and game 2. That's why I don't want it to get lost how good this game was, because each and every one of those looks was tough that Cade made tonight, and that is big time, and that is what you need to do as the best player in this series. You need that game where you're just on one and nobody can stop you.
And we couldn't knock him off at that point on Saturday night.
No.
We talked about a lot of different things, and you kept hammering home it has to be Cade.
Yeah.
It has to be Cade, and tonight it was Cade.
Yeah, I know that was Spinney was on one that night, and these have been the keys to victory. Mitten May says attack the hole, Cade. That I'm going to continue to bang that drum. You're going to hear this stat from me this entire series. Why? Because the Knicks are the 29th ranked team in the NBA at blocks. Your Detroit Pistons are a top 10 ranked team in the NBA at blocks. The Detroit Pistons are one of the best teams at scoring in the paint, and they have dominated that this season. Out of 44 wins, think about it, they have outscored their opponent in 30 straight games. That's amazing. To see them get back to that and to know that it's because Cade Cunningham is leading that charge, that's the recipe. And I get it. OG Anunoby and these guys are going to make great attempts, but I'm sorry. Cade Cunningham went out there and did his thing efficiently, shooting the ball, and he wasn't getting all of the foul calls that he could have gotten. This is why J.B. Bickerstaff said that this team is built for this time in particular, because can you play when the whistles are against you? even in the other game, there were some calls that went against the Pistons. Yeah. But realistically, it was how they took the shotgun and put it to their own foot and pulled the trigger. Yeah. And this one, it seemed like they had a little bit more. Like, you saw the Knicks have some turnovers, and they're supposed to be the more experienced team.
They were sloppy.
You saw the Knicks miss some shots down the clutch. On the Pistons side of the ball, they put this thing, I believe, in a pace that we saw some of our old Detroit Pistons teams enjoy playing and winning games at. And you were right. This thing is low scoring. This will always play into the hands of the Detroit Pistons. I'm going to say this over and over and over again. How demoralizing. You lose a game without Stu in your building in which Cade Cunningham is out dueling both of your MVP candidates.
I just keep thinking about that offseason trade. And Maz loved it, big Knicks guy. To me, I felt like you were taking away chemistry. You're bringing in a guy that fails in the playoffs, and we saw a massive failure out of Cade tonight. But the other thing is you watch Mikal Bridges. Yeah, he can hit an open three. He can get to the rim. But if you're depending on him to hit threes, if you're depending on Hart to hit threes, you don't have a guy like Julius Randle to really mix it up physically. And then you lose a guy like Dante DiVincenzo that's absolute kryptonite from long range. Those guys are down an offensive weapon. And to be quite honest with you, I'm already seeing Jalen Brunson and Cat look tired. There's just too much on their shoulders in this series. And, we were worried about who's going to be our number 2, number 3 scorer. Well, shout out Trajan Langdon for going out and getting boring free agents, because it was Tobias both games. It was Tim the first game, and then it was the trade deadline acquisition in Shooter today. This team is too deep.
Oh, and
and too athletic and too young for the Knicks to deal with in a 7-game series.
And the coaching staff, which has boded so well for this young Detroit Pistons team. They've grown up. They've taken some steps forward. And when we talk about each and every possession has to matter, that's why I'm glad that Ron Holland got in there and he tried to make some things work as it relates to going to the rack.
Yeah.
And just, this got to be a worst nightmare if you're a New York Knicks fan, because everything coming into this series is we can't let Cade beat us. Not only did Cade beat you, but he beat you in your building again.
Yeah.
Again. And now you're coming back to Detroit. And what's the game plan? What are you doing to stop Cade? You haven't figured this out yet, and you have no real shot blockers. Think about this. They're physical, tough guys. They weren't that in this game. I heard from New York Knicks fans who were overriding the content. I know you probably dealt with this in you as well, that were talking about who OG Anunoby was. See, y'all didn't face us healthy. Look at OG and look at this. Now you're lost to us, and when we literally are not healthy, dealing with players in foul trouble, some of our most important players, and we don't have to necessarily rely on the game going our way. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is one that I'm like, yo, if you're a Knicks fan, if you're the Knicks, this is not the way that you wanted to see your team lose a game. If they lost, hey, Cade's gone off. Maybe Malik Beasley hit like six shimmies that game. You know what I mean? Jalen Duren has hit with the 20-20. These are the things that Knicks fans were saying was going to have to happen. Instead, they ground it down to let's just play man ball, and you lost on your home court. And I'm hoping that the Detroit Pistons bottle up that feeling from game 1 and allow that to spur them on into games 3 and 4. Because I hear this narrative so much. Well, no, there's no way the Pistons are going to win back-to-back games. There's no way they're going to win these games at home. Well, why the frick not? Why not? The expectation should be if you want to win this series, you go and you take care of home court. The reason why the Pistons and fans right now feel like they have a chance to win the series is because the Knicks failed to take care of home court. And I do believe this. This Pistons team, they have the recipe to beat this Knicks team. Yeah. They've been doing it, and you're right. Cat and Brunson, with the usage and everything that they're going to have to do.
Tired and frustrated, bro.
They're tired and frustrated.
Yeah. You gave me a little hell on Saturday when I thought it was a good win, Chris, because I was like, if they played that way and then lost on the last second shot, I felt like that would be maybe an emotional blow they couldn't handle. This one I felt like just sent them home absolutely pissed off. And Knicks fans, they don't know this team. Shaq doesn't know this team. I know you might have picked us, buddy, but the fact is I think that everybody in New York thought that we were just going to roll over and play dead after blowing going down 21-0 for 4.5 minutes. I think they underestimated this young team.
Or that it was going to happen again because this is a young team and this is what young teams do. But again, everybody said it. Detroit media said it. New York media said it. This team is soft. They've all called out the fact that this Knicks team is soft. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. The thing is they've always expected to win this series on talent, which on paper, they have the talent. But if you're watching ball, if you're seeing what this team has been doing game in, game out this season, especially since the new calendar year, this is a team that is going to just respond. And this is now the best situation for the Pistons coming home. Obviously, you can't ask for more than a split on the road. You got to be happy there. But the fact that you lost that game the way you lost it in game 1 and then came back and won this game the way you won it in game 2, you got to feel like, hey, guys, no matter what, we can do it now. Because now you're not going home nervous to drop a dud in front of your fans. Now you're coming home with, we got another man on the court right now because LCA is going to be rocking. And with that being said, this team is going to be in a position where they can take control of this series, and they now have the best recipe for that because they've seen what it's like to lose, and they learned from it, and now they know that they can beat this team in New York, and they know damn sure they can beat this team when it comes here to the D.
And that's what I want to talk about. You've got the finger on the pulse at LCA. I've asked, I don't know if the game's sold out. I know what playoff atmosphere was like at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Mm-hmm. What are your expectations of the Detroit Piston fans? I know that they haven't been selling tickets to the Knicks fans. Is this thing going to be sold out? Is that place going to be rocking?
Yes.
Can the Pistons hold serve at home?
Yes. Those are all of the easy questions. Yes, yes, and yes. Especially coming down the stretch here. If you went to LCA, even if it wasn't completely sold out, you heard a different environment that you haven't really heard or felt around this team. And it was really more or less a conversation. Even with the Blake Griffin playoff series that happened at LCA, you didn't hear too many hopeful fans. But with these fans, you heard them in the arena hopeful. You heard them in the arena understanding that each and every one of these possessions, each and every one of
hopeful
these games.
But doubtful, those two series. This one, it's different.
Yeah, and those other ones. I'm saying this season, game by game, being at the arena, you hear fans as this thing really started to build, and it went from postseason playing Pistons to, they have a chance to probably strike for the 4th seed, but you probably want to match up with the Knicks. You heard fans. There was a different aspect of glee and hope, even after loss. Dang, man, well, they'll get them next time. I didn't hear that in any of the seasons covering the team. This is my 4th season covering them on a credential basis, man. And it's to hear this is night and day between what the fans are feeling, because I make it a point to interview the fans. That's been one of the things I've wanted to do. I believe that covering a team is not just what's happening from the players on the podium, but also the fans who are spending their time, their money, their emotions. Bro, I sweated through everything tonight.
He wouldn't take his jacket out because he didn't want to mess with his karma.
Bro, I couldn't. It's the mojo. But I'm so serious. Like, to see who JB Bickerstaff has been, I wanted to say this earlier, just really quickly, because you're right. I think the reason why this environment is going to be rocking is because the Pistons know that this team has the opportunity to win too. They're not a hopeful team like, we're in LeBron James' head. We hope we get one win. No, we came into this knowing that they have a chance to win one series against the Knicks. And I get what Chris is saying. They're going to learn from their losses because you got to take something away from your loss. But I believe what they learned and what's going to spur them on to potentially 2 wins at LCA is the fact that they're not happy. Yeah. We've seen JB Bickerstaff step to the podium after losses and after wins, and if they didn't play to the standard or if they cost themselves, then no. You don't just say, well, teams don't usually take 2 on the road to start the series. No, they dropped the game.
Yeah,
they
could be up 2-0.
They
very easily.
And that's what I'm hoping is in the back of their mind and spurring them. When you didn't get the job done, take that personal and allow that to be what motivates you to more. And that's what JB has done all season. Yeah. I was shocked when they won the game against Charlotte. They put themselves in a good position where they held serve in the standings, and JB Bickerstaff came into the room pissed.
Yeah.
And even I think it was Beasley after came in and said, yeah, we can't have games like
no,
this.
Hell
so
no.
I think it might have been Duran, actually, who stepped to the podium and was like, you know what? He started off with like, yeah, we got the win. He was like, you know what? No, bro. We didn't play to our standard. And that's what I believe is underpinning this. And I hope that they're pissed that they dropped one. Yeah. I really do.
And, honestly, Detroit and Michigan and Piston fans, because I know you guys are in Korea and down under and everywhere else.
Shout out to Korea Pistons fans.
They are absolutely the team that resonates with Detroit Pistons fans. Like, I know that we made it with the Stanley Johnson and Blake Griffin and Wayne Ellington Pistons, but we all knew. But they didn't capture our hearts. They weren't gritty, defensive-driven Piston basketball. And now you see this type of team that harkens back to 04 and harkens back to the original Bad Boys. You watch these two games and you know how this team can play. You know how young they are. You know that this team's not going anywhere either. So I do think that, I look back, I remember back in 05, after the Pistons went out to San Antonio and absolutely got their asses handed to them.
Yeah.
I got to bring 11 friends. My dad was stuck with tickets to Game 3 of the finals. I got to bring 11 friends, and they all sat within the first 12 rows because nobody wanted to buy tickets. That's not the case here. If the Pistons went and blew that lead in this game, you might see a quieter LCA, maybe not even a sellout. But after these two games and the way they've played all season, Pistons fans got to be damn excited. I know you got to be excited.
I mean,
You were 8 or 9, you told me, in 03, 04 when you first became a big Pistons fan, right?
You got to put it out there like that. You could.
You were young, man. You were young.
I'm an OG up here, man. It was 03 or 04 for me. That was senior year, the summer of going to college.
But you haven't been in the building for meaningful playoffs, have you?
Wow.
I was the most meaningful game I would say of my Piston life wasn't even a home game, but I was at the Palace for watching it Game 7 of San Antonio.
Oh, cool. The Palace
Vision.
Was
probably the Palace Vision was.
How old were you then?
Was probably. Shit, I had to be like, I don't know, 8 or 9.
My man, probably I wasn't even a man yet.
Nah, well,
this is the most meaningful Pistons that you've had as a grown man. Then is what you're telling me.
And it's got me emotional, man. It's got me emotional, but.
It reminds me of
I think it's gonna.
I think it's gonna hit me after. I think it's gonna hit me after we wrap up. After we step off, because I just saw the Pistons win a playoff game, and I see a team that not only has a chance to win this series, but has a chance to have a very, very bright future. When you talk about all of this young talent, you have the surrounding cast, the culture that you guys talked about that's being built.
Leadership
you're absolutely right, Anson. This is not the identity that the Pistons had the last decade. And again, there's some things in history.
It feels like home,
some
baby.
things in history just work. And the Pistons winning the way they win, there's direct lineage between the Bad Boys and the going-to-work Pistons, and there's a direct lineage here. And if you don't believe me, ask Isaiah motherfucking Thomas.
That's my
because
boy.
he said the same
That's my
shit
boy.
too.
Zeke.
There's something real here. So this is so many emotions, man. This is so
It feels
many
good.
emotions.
I remember I Spinny after the Detroit Lions won a playoff game, and he was just shook like, I'm a grown man. And I just saw the Lions win a playoff game and win the division and things of that nature. And it's like, I feel that, man. Like I remember seeing the 04 Pistons. I remember I was like 16, 17 years old, and this was me and my dad's thing, man. Like I remember I was 13. I was kind of feeling myself, and my mom was like, do something with him. And my dad started taking me more to Pistons games. My dad was like, all right, we'll do something different. It was more hooping, and going to these games. And we did. We watched a lot of these games, and we saw the Pistons win a championship. We were heartbroken the next year after. But that's what this is all about. And to see this next grouping of Pistons fans who they don't have like a lot of these memories to fall back on, to be able to have this now and to see them win right now, this thing is crazy. Like my kids, man. My kids, they've been waiting for this. They know about the Bad Boys and the going to work Pistons. They've been waiting for this, and now to see their Detroit Pistons, because I got the Billups jerseys. My kids, they're all about this generation, and to see this finally bringing together generations of Pistons fans, because this squad is playing like the Bad Boys and they're going to work, and now this new era is establishing itself. It's beautiful. And shout out to High Dust Stuff. $5 super chat. Another one. Nice. Another one, fam. I know you're excited. I cannot wait to see
We didn't get a whole lot of super chats after we lost.
He says, I need our fans to leave with a migraine from screaming so loud. I have a headache from screaming at my TV tonight. Piston fans, you already know they're not going to need any help getting LCA rocking I can't wait, dog.
Where were you in 04?
Woo!
Where was I in 04, man? 04, how old was I? I was 6 years old.
Were you watching?
Was I watching? No, but I was downtown when we won.
Oh, yeah?
I was downtown when
Awesome.
we won for sure. I remember that. Yeah, Detroit damn near broke off and was in the middle of motherfucking Michigan and Canada. How hype we was out there. But yeah, no. All I remember is that.
So you don't have playoff games under your belt yet.
I don't.
You
That's
have
what I
to get your boy
said.
in
That's
the
what I
building.
said when I first came in.
Whoa.
I'm like,
seriously.
I'm just happy. I don't want to be one of those. I'm happy we here.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm happy
Yeah,
we here.
yeah. I see the look.
I'm happy I'm
we're here
alive
and-
to witness this moment right now.
No
and I've been
doubt.
saying for like the last 2-3 years, I'm like, listen, we're gonna be in the playoffs within the next 2-3 years. Promise. And I'm just glad that that came to fruition.
Hey, Ashton the trainer. Shout out to Ashton the trainer. NBA trainer. Cade's cousin. And overall, just a good guy. They moved here as soon as Cade was drafted, and they got to work in the community, and they supported a lot of us in our journeys at the start of media. I know he's supported the Heavy, supported me, supported this network, supported so many other content creators out there and people trying to get their start. Shout out to him. He just posted online
Big love.
that the Knicks fans gave me hell at Madison Square Garden. Pistons fans turned the F up at LCA on Thursday.
Hell yeah.
Hey, he was holding it down out there. He was at Madison Square getting heckled, man.
I'm excited, man. It's just weird because like we knew that the Lions hadn't won in forever. You know,
Yeah.
I was barely, I don't think I was even a teenager yet when they actually won a playoff game in the early 90s.
Yeah, I don't even know what
But
we're watching
you
right
know,
now.
you hear some of these testimonials from people, and a lot of kids were around in 04, but we kind of failed to realize that it's been so long that you start asking people, and like, there's very few people under the age of 25 or 30 that have any kind of positive memories of this team. And brother, this is just the start. Like, we don't have our second best player, and we have a hell load of salary cap room this offseason.
And our
this
third
team
best.
is only going up.
And our third best. Stu and Ivy are Stu and Ivy. Like those
Well, I
are
mean, I wouldn't put
huge.
Stu at 3. I'd put Durr in there, but Stu's such a
I
huge
would.
part of our foundation, and defensively, he is our best player.
Yeah, he's our identity,
rim
and our
especially.
identity is defense. So
Yeah.
that's why I would put him. I would put him top 2, top 3 on this roster. But look, now is not the time to argue who's better. Now is the time to argue about
Enjoy the win.
now is the time to argue with the Knicks fans. I saw Knicks fans in the stream in the watch party.
Where are they at
I don't
now?
see.
Where
I
they
don't
at?
see
They gone?
shit from New York.
And listen, I haven't seen a lot of the ones I've interacted here on the channel when they've been in the shows have largely been okay. But the ones who leave the little comments and don't be in the live chats, they have been talking trash, and I don't see y'all anymore. I promise you, I don't hit nobody with the bat. It's just for effect, man, because I'm really freaking fired up. And y'all better be tapped in to Woodward Sports all day tomorrow.
holding that bat
starting with
all
Wake
show,
Up. I'm
bro.
fired up, bro. Check out the show info tomorrow. And you know what? I shout out to the Rona 99. He says Knicks fans are crying about Tibbs coaching and a lack of calls, and they should be. They really should be. We all knew how this game was being called. We all did. And honestly, they got a whole lot more calls, in my opinion, than they deserved.
Yeah.
But I see Varys as well, 199 Super Chat. He said, we held them to less than 100 points in Detroit fashion.
Hey, I love Just a Fan, but he literally said something that I was thinking earlier. First LCA playoff game. Coming wow. No, we've had 2 other series there that were completely inconsequential.
Yeah.
To me, we haven't even played a playoff series because we
no.
barely belonged there for those 2 series.
This is the debut. Like this is the debut, Rod. You know how it is when rappers, they got a little buzz, but they're not ready to drop their debut album. This is Detroit's debut album. This is the Pistons' debut album.
This is the
They're ready.
first time we've had home court advantage since 2008.
And they
Literally,
took
we
it.
just
Yeah.
took it.
And they took it from them.
And you know
Right.
what? Tibbs is hanging on by the hair he's got left on his head. Because I tell you what, man, if he don't make it out this series,
All right, look.
Tibbs.
Tim?
Tibbs.
Well, let's talk about
Thibodeau
it.
is
Let's-
on the hot seat.
Let's talk about it because we do have a game 3 that's going to be on the way here, and I know we're going to have other breakdowns across all the different shows and such. But let's talk about it because you have a game 3 on the way. You would assume that there's going to be a chess match There's going to be a chess move, a counter move from Tibbs and the New York Knicks. Obviously, I don't know. Tonight, Cade just blew through every aspect of the coverage that they wanted to roll his way. And if you cannot stop Cade, I don't believe you're stopping the Pistons if you're the Knicks. For the Pistons in Game 3, let's talk about the keys to victory for those Pistons.
Let's stay with the Knicks first. Let's
right.
talk about the Knicks adjustments they have to make, because I look at the fourth quarter and this first quarter, and you might have 7, 8-ish turnovers from Cade. But then he figured it out. He figured it out after this first quarter, after being embarrassed in the fourth quarter on Saturday. And I'm not sure what adjustment they have. Who are they going to put on him? Because he's torched OG. He's torched Bridges. They've got to figure out a way to get Cat going. And I honestly, I want to know what you guys think, because I don't know, if I'm Tibbs, what my adjustment is. What would you do?
I'm bringing in Mitchell Robinson, man. You got to get more physical.
You've been saying his name both games, too.
They need that physicality, because why? They are soft. And if they allow it to get pushed around, especially in Detroit, when some of those whistles won't happen. Now, again, they are still New York, so they'll get some calls. But they are not going to get them to the level that they got them tonight and in Game 2. So if you cannot match this physicality, you are going to lose flat out. Because guess what? Ron Holland is entering Detroit Game 3 and 4 with 6 fouls to give. And you better believe he's got 6 minutes, 6 fouls.
Only 2 guys on the Knicks were a plus in the plus-minus. Mikal Bridges at +1, and your boy Mitchell Robinson in 20 minutes led the team in rebounds and had a +3.
Exactly, he's needed.
But this is the problem, though. He got the most minutes off the bench. He got 20 minutes this game. Who are you taking the minutes from to give him more? Because their starters are the one who played the majority of the games. When you're talking about chess pieces, honestly, what this is shaping up to be is they don't have enough pieces. You're talking about Mitchell Robinson needing more minutes. Bro, there was no B. Stu in freaking sight. And we got 20 minutes of Mitchell Robinson, and it really didn't make a difference tonight like we even saw it in the first game. Yeah. I don't think they have the chess pieces to really make this a match from a physical standpoint. The one thing I continued to say was that the Knicks, this was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago in the season when we knew where this was headed, was this. The Knicks may come in with the more talented roster, but they are not the more physical, they're not the more gritty, they're not the more tough. And we saw that on display tonight. Our guy who they associate all of our toughness with wasn't there. Yeah. Surprise, we got a lot of guys that get after it on the defensive side and play with aggression. And that's what they met tonight. And even with the Mitchell Robinson, what are you increasing his minutes to? 30 minutes a game? Because I can tell you what he's going to give you. 0 on the offensive side. So even if he gives you some type of physical presence, maybe 1 every 3 or 4 possessions, the Knicks, if they play him more minutes, are going empty in some of the possessions that he might play on offense. Can you afford that in crunch time? That's the issue, because I believe each and every one of these games are going to come down to the fourth quarter. Can the Pistons keep it together? That's what I believe this is going to be
honest
each
with
and every
you.
game.
The way that this game looked, the way that Game 1 looked, if we get a fair whistle in Detroit with the crowd behind him,
ain't no fourth quarter.
We could blow them out.
Ain't no fourth quarter. Yeah, ain't no fourth quarter. And that bench depth, if you don't have your Lord and fucking Savior campaign, New York, you're toast. You saw it today. There was a big edge on the bench. That is a hole that the Knicks should be between bench scoring. That should be a -20 hole that the Knicks got to climb out of every fucking game.
No doubt.
And Ronan is saying it. Cat was gassed. This was a key to these games going back. I remember the last game against the Knicks, and people were, well, he got like 20-something points. Knicks fans were using that last game, even though it was a loss, to say Cat was going to ball. But what did he do in the fourth quarter of that game? Zilch. Yeah. They lost the game because Beasley and Cade stepped up and because Cat was nowhere to be found, even though Jalen Brunson got going a little bit in that fourth quarter. And this is the thing. These guys have so much usage on them, and they haven't proven that they can overcome that in these playoffs. They've had mild success, but when you've needed these guys to step up and be those guys, they have not been able to get their team over the hump. Yeah. What did we see Cade do in his second playoff game of all ever after going 31 wins combined total the previous 2 seasons? And one of those seasons, he literally missed all but 12 games. We saw Cade step up in his second game and take 20. He parlayed the 25, 12, and 6 into even better and raised that efficiency and not stole. They took it. It was theirs. I believe that the Knicks stole game 1.
They did.
And I know people
They did.
don't generally want to say that about the higher seed at home, but the Pistons tonight, you saw it get more back to, and we've all said it tonight, their character and their identity, despite the players that are there. Stu is your heart and soul, but I'm sorry, the rest of you guys are supposed to be members of this body. If you guys aren't also going out there in the same vein of toughness and DNA that Stewart is setting, that example, then it's not Detroit Pistons basketball. What we knew is this. Though you can say Rick Mahorn and Bill Laimbeer, though you can say Sheed and Ben, we knew that all of those players were getting after it. Even when they went to the bench. What did we see out of Lindsey Hunter and Mike James?
Oh, yeah.
If anything, we saw the defense probably off the bench go up
That's
just
the
a notch.
signature calling card of both championship versions of the Detroit Pistons.
Absolutely.
Look, without Jade and Ivy, 1 through 5, the Knicks, on paper, are better. But when you look, again, like they have to have someone like Cameron Payne. Miles McBride hit the 13-minute mark because he actually hit a couple of shots. Nobody else
Yeah, I
was.
got nervous about that for a minute.
Yeah.
I got nervous that they were going to have a fucking McBride game.
You were
I
having
was-
campaign flashbacks.
Yeah,
it was.
yeah,
He does.
yeah.
But listen, this team, let's say they get by the Pistons. They're going to have 0 left in the tank for the Celtics. But I just don't see this team being able to come into LCA for 2 straight games and bring the intensity that they need. Maybe they can tie this series up. But the amount of effort and energy it's going to take to get a win in LCA, to go back to New York 2-2, now you got a best 2 out of 3 game series with a team that's going to be winded. And they are absolutely going to need a guy like P.J. Tucker or Landry Shamet to pull a game out of their ass to be able to beat this team in 7. I'm going to tell you, this series might only go 6 now.
We saw this team fall. We saw this Knicks team fall last year. So
I'm hinting
swapped
at
out
it.
some new players,
I've been
but
hinting
you
at
know
it.
what? They fell by the wayside. They started in that Indiana series. They started like the team that was going to dominate. They looked great in that Knicks series, that Phillies series. And they looked like a team that I thought was going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And they kept dropping like flies to the point where Jalen Brunson, last game, the series is already over. You already know Indiana's wrapping it up. But Jalen Brunson breaks his hand, the nail in the coffin. Like, this is the MO of a Tibbs team. This is what happens. So the Pistons, they're ready for this. They're deep. They're young. They're mentally and physically ready for this to go the distance. The longer this series goes out, the worse it is for New York.
I wish they were playing Wednesday.
You know what? The quick turnaround favored the Pistons. We were talking about
think
the fact
so.
that they had the quickest turnaround out of the first round playoff teams to this point, and the fact that we believe this actually will favor them because Cat looked gassed at the end of the first quarter. I was just talking about this with Neil earlier. Shout out to Neil and Big D Energy, and I got my notes here. Like, do you know how much pressure is on the shoulder of the New York Knicks? Because a lot of what Platte's saying, add this to that. This New York Knicks team invested in a championship run this year. They didn't invest in getting to the playoffs and having a cute season. Bro, Mikal Bridges they mortgaged some of their future for him. Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, they were talking about having this big 3. They entered this season with something to prove, and they find themselves tied 1-1, dropping 1 to the upstart Pistons, who've had their number all year. Mentally, we know how much sports is a mental game, and now you have the Knicks coming to Detroit, where we heard Dwayne Wade talk about, do you know what the fans do there?
Oh, yeah.
We know where they stand. Hey, we're right down the street from we're right down the
Townsend,
street.
baby.
And I know that
That's where they put them up.
and you used to do your part in this. I can't wait because we might have to get down there and get some content. If fans are out there, we might have to get down there.
We might need to get about 100 of you down there. Because it's fun, man. It gets loud, and everybody's going to start buying in. We've talked, first time I got the call from Stick, told me the idea of Woodward Sports. We both agreed this was the decade of Detroit sports. 15 years with just being irrelevant in almost every sport here, and now this team is the next to enter the playoffs now. But they're not coming in limping.
So
this team's ready to upset in the first round, and I really see it happening.
So what's the Pistons' keys then? Game 3, I'm looking for more of Cade Cunningham taking that star ascension in these playoffs. You want to see him go. And at the end of the series, looking back, and we see Cade putting up close to 30 points a game. And I love the rebounds. It shows how much more he chose to live in the paint on both sides of the floor. And I believe that setting that example in a game in which Stu is out, think about that. Your leader of your team now is saying, we know we're losing a big portion of our squad today. They went out there and they made a point to live in the paint. They made a point to go out there and limit second chance
They were
opportunities.
better defensively tonight without him. And that's no knock on Stu.
No, people
but they
stepped
all
up.
stepped up.
They stepped up, and that's what I'm saying. You're going to need more of this. You want to see Cade be Cade, but ultimately, I want to see Beasley. I want to see these vets. You get what we get out of Cade tonight mixed with what the vets gave us in game 1, and you're right. That's going to be that absolute blowout. Think about this, too. How much more comfortable guys like Ron Holland, Asar Thompson, and those energy guys, those transition guys, think about how much more comfortable they are now with the home crowd on their side, not looking around and seeing celebrities that they grew up watching their whole lives sitting courtside. Now they're at home where they're sitting and looking at a bunch of people who are rooting them on and cheering them on. And I do believe that this is going to be something that gives the Pistons that much more of a home court advantage, in which we haven't seen for the Pistons. You have to go back to what? The going to work era.
18 years, man. Are you guys surprised that we have not seen 1 minute of play from Fontecchio or
Nope.
Sasser?
No.
That is what I wanted. That is exactly what the doctor ordered. No disrespect, Sasser.
Sit them?
Yeah. Well, mainly
Sass
Fontecchio.
a little bit.
I would
Sass,
like to see
I
a
would-
little bit of time
Sasser.
for Sass.
Sasser is good.
that's one. Oh man, but you.
Tech man, if he's not hitting a shot, it is terrible. Man
Yeah.
dribbles into traffic. The way this Knicks defense is rangy and swarms, he cannot dribble the ball. He is the only player in the NBA I've ever seen dribble the ball with his head down. He is the only player. I don't want a minute of Fontecchio at all. Sasser, I'm cool with Sasser. I think that's a dog.
Fontecchio, I'm happy with him on the bench. Sasser, to me, I called for it. I wanted to see more. I wanted to see a little bit of Sasser, but I wanted to see more Schroeder with Cade. Because Cade bringing the ball up, you're basically running a high point screen and roll, or you're weaving. And with Schroeder on the court, you get a chance to set him up in the post. You get a chance to set up Tobias in the post, and then be running Cade through. So I thought that Schroeder filled that role for us.
Absolutely.
Huge tonight. I think that Sasser can do that a little bit, but right now, this 9-man rotation with 5-6 minutes from Ron Holland, I did think we'd see a little more Ron Holland tonight. What about you guys?
I did too, but I think that's a game 3 and 4 where, again, I think those type players, I'm expecting big games from Holland and Asar, because you know what, they're not the most offensively polished players at this point in their career, but they feast so much off of that energy, and I know for a fact that they're not going to get all of the petty
And
calls.
they're both frustrated right now, don't you think?
Absolutely. They're both disappointed in themselves.
One out of
Absolutely.
his play and one out of his lack of minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Ron Holland, I saw it. He made some great plays in that very first
He came
stint.
in fired
and
up.
He came in, got the offensive rebound, but got the ticky-tack foul, and it cut to him on the camera, and he had his hands over his head. He was clearly frustrated. He wants better of himself, and when he just gets one of those offensive rebounds or he gets a cutting layup and this arena erupts, that's going to be all he needs to carry him for the rest of Game 3 and Game 4. Those are the type of guys, not the most offensively gifted. Those are the type of players that feast off of that home crowd energy.
You mentioned that on Saturday. When he gets a chance to be in front of his own crowd, build that confidence. I love that. Love that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what's been the recipe behind this team winning all season, and the fact that they can win even when certain parts of that identity isn't there is what makes me very confident for this team. A big part of their identity is what we talk about it, seeing Ron Holland and Asar Thompson getting out in transition and making and having athletic finishes even in the half court. Think about some of the crazy dunks we've seen from Asar Thompson in the half court, including catching lobs. And then think about what we've seen from Ron Holland forcing the issue, getting to the free throw line, learning how to play the game fast while still slowing down when necessary. And the fact that the Pistons were able to switch this game to the side they did and slow it down, I believe that it gives Ron Holland just enough Get your playoff feet wet as a rookie, and now you get to go home with all the support behind you and feast on this energy. Like Platte said, like you said, like I've said, like we all know, they've been doing this all season. It's been the key to Ron Holland getting on the court, is focusing on being the everything that nobody else on the court really wants to make their money for.
Yeah.
Ron Holland wants to be that guy. And, I want to tip my cap to JB Bickerstaff. There was a lot of, conversations and questions about 21-0 run. The lack of adjustments defensively and offensively to stop that. And tonight, when things got a little tight, we saw this team power through. To have your team mentally ready for a game like this on the road in Madison Square, to have them be able to pick this thing up down the stretch when things were getting tight and getting hot, that to me shows exactly why JB Bickerstaff does deserve Coach of the Year, but also more importantly, the most important aspect of this, why the Detroit Pistons do have a chance to go out there and win. Because what was the adjustment that the Knicks were going to make? What did Tibbs do? He got out-coached tonight.
Yeah.
He got flat-out out-coached. He couldn't manufacture anything for Karl Anthony Towns, and Jalen Brunson was at the behest of if the refs were going to call a foul or not. And when they just so happened to not call that one or two fouls, look how it changed the complexity of the game down the stretch for the New York Knicks and the Detroit Pistons. And that, to me, JB Bickerstaff getting his team ready for this style of basketball from day one.
Yeah.
From day one, to make sure this team could grow up quick from 17 wins, 14 wins, to getting 30 wins more over the last season and having yourself now in a position to stranglehold
Coach of the Year,
this
baby.
series.
So I'm going to stay on JB here. Bickerstaff, when you look at this rotation that we've brought out, and a couple of guys that we just talked about in Sasser and Fontecchio not really seeing any time. You didn't even see Paul Reed in that first game. He knew those two games in MSG were going to be tight, and he had to give them their best shot. But now we've already kind of run these boys. We're all agreeing that they look tired. They look frustrated. Is there a better time than at home to spring Ron Holland on them?
No.
And to give them a little bit of that youth? Because now, if you get Ron Holland a 10, 12 minute of time in this game, Mikal Bridges has to keep up with that. OG has to keep up with that. Hart has to
They have to keep hitting every tough, contorted shot.
So I got to say, the only way that I think that the Knicks can get back in this series is you remember Game 80 this year when we beat the Knicks and they didn't have Hart and they didn't have Cat. And you saw P.J. Tucker frustrating the Pistons with physicality, and you saw Precious Achiuwa extending the defense as a stretch 4-5.
Yeah,
that's a guy that could defend at the rim. Something that you guys mentioned this team lacks in the Knicks. Thibodeau, like you said, got out coached. He's got to find that X factor off of his bench that's just dying to get on the court. And I think it's one of those two guys, or maybe a little bit of both.
Imagine that you're having to find and rely on finding an X factor in a series where you have two MVP candidates.
You only got 5 guys, though, man. The rest of this team is trash.
But that's what I'm saying.
Shaky.
If you at this point in time, as the 3 seed, are trying to figure out who your X factor is going to be,
right.
Detroit has you more than on your heels. Like I'm trying to piggyback on that point because that's what the Pistons had entering the series. We knew the talent that the Knicks had, but we also understood the depth. You want to talk about depth? B-Ball Paul in that second half acquitted himself quite nicely after
acquitted himself on all charges.
couple turnovers, but he acquitted himself quite nicely in that. Think about it. Everyone stepped up. That second half was a team effort with Cade Cunningham making sure this squad had an opportunity to get that dub. I want to see the same thing in Game 3. Cade going right to work and putting the pressure on the New York Knicks. Because if Cade goes out there and hits a couple shots to the paint to start this game and they got to call that timeout, Tibbs is going to be sitting there trying to figure out what now. Now you got to add that to the list, right? We heard all of this stuff coming into the series. How are you dealing with Beef Stew on Cat, and how are we solving Cade? Now you have to look for an X factor. Now you have to look for role players. Now you have to hope that P.J. Tucker can do something. Now you have to hope that Campaign has another good campaign. These are your hopes. You have to hope OG Anunoby can shut down Cade. It's not happening. If Cade has a bad game, it's just because the efficiency just wasn't there for a little bit. You
if
see what he
campaign
does.
has a good campaign, I got to come back to that, bro. That was really nice. That was nice.
Listen,
Platte said that one.
I'm not
earlier.
worried about that New York Knicks bench. Like I've said, I'm only focused on this Piston team, and that's where I saw a lot of people saying that the Knicks have more options. No, they don't. They don't have the depth that Detroit has. I get that the offense is heliocentric. So if you take away the head of the snake and Cade Cunningham, but guess what? You fucking can't. You can't. OG Anunoby did a great job in Game 1, and he did a good job this game. I think he did a great job. But you know what? Cade is still him. Cade was able to elevate above that. They don't have that perfect solution for Cade. They don't have. I'll tell you this. I will take Asar defending Jalen Brunson over OG Anunoby defending Cade any day of the week. Any day of the week. Cade is, I guarantee you, law of averages, Cade is going to shoot more efficient in this series with OG Anunoby on him than with Asar, with Jalen Brunson guarded by Asar. That is just a fact of it. So you look at, okay, can maybe Mikal get a little bit more involved in the offense because you traded 9 picks for him? You'd like to think that, but they haven't done that, and that's not their MO. That's not their MO. If they take the ball out of Brunson and Cat's hands, that's a win for me. That's a win for me.
This is the thing. This is the problem. Looking at this from just pure basketball strategy standpoint, what sets are you running for Mikal Bridges? Think about it. In this series, that's the whole point of this thing, especially with how they're trying to run their matchups so that they don't get overexposed. Yeah. Like, what are you running for some of these players? Even when you talk about some of the role players you need to have in the game, Josh Hart, Campaign in Game 1 made their lunch, and Mitchell Robinson, all off energy plays. Because what are you calling for these guys? If Jalen Brunson has the ball, the Knicks, a large part of their success has been Jalen Brunson just doing his thing. Mm-hmm. That he gets his assists, but it's been largely him going out there, and we see in the playoffs elevating that scoring a little bit. And that's where I do believe, I'm going to go back to this chess reference. Do they have the pieces? It's like some of these guys, are they pawns or can they move a little bit further? Yeah. Because that's the whole thing. Like now you got the Knicks in a position where they're hoping that some of these lesser than players who you weren't hoping to have to depend on step up. While meanwhile, the Pistons have been this consistent team all year. Even in the second half, in games in which K didn't play, we saw the offense still have semblance in which you can run certain plays that takes advantage of the speed and athleticism and the IQ or the shooting ability of this team. That's where with the Knicks, it's like I don't know. If your whole plan right now is Jalen Brunson drive and dish, they're going to have a tough time because every time Brunson sat in this game, that Knicks offense looked like it was on a struggle bus.
Yeah. And the Pistons, hey, don't think this is going to be a 5-game sweep, anybody, okay? But it's going to take Brunson going off. Yeah. And it's going to take Cat having big games. And then it's going to take a guy like Mikal or Campaign or even your buddy Miles McBride hitting shots. Because you saw in this first quarter, they weren't hitting shots. And they started to press, and they don't have anybody to press with. You saw Karl Anthony Towns with these circus acrobat shots. And then you see Brunson using every piece of energy, every move in his bag to shoot under 50%.
And what do you see from both of them in the game? What do you see from both of them in the game, man? You see him start to, as the game going on, you start to see him doing this and doing this. And meanwhile, the Pistons just kind of got a bounce to them going.
They're going to win some games. That. They're going to hit some shots.
Right.
But it all comes down to this youthful team with grit just running them off the floor through 6 or 7 games. And for what I've seen for 2 games, man, it's not even about outlasting them. They're a better team, period.
Yes. And they have the best defender in this series, too, because I'm sick of the OG Anunoby Defensive Player of the Year campaigns, all defense player campaigns over Asar. I respect OG Anunoby. I wanted OG Anunoby this summer so that I could have Asar and OG, and then no team would score 40 points. That would really be the 2004 Pistons.
Nasty.
But
I'll take Miles Turner this summer.
Noted Pistons killer.
Noted Pistons killer. Yeah, I'll just take him away from
mortgage. The house. Gores.
That's a win-win.
Yeah, that's a win-win. But no, Asar is the best perimeter defender in this series, and he is on Brunson. And so I like the fact that Brunson yes, he's going to have box score numbers, raw numbers at the end of games that will suggest that he was a really good player, and he is a really good player. I'm not taking that away from him, but it is going to be inefficient, and that's what you have to do if you're the Pistons, because if Brunson is inefficient, the rest of this Knicks offense can't hum the way it needs to hum, and that's the key, is taking away the playmaking of Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson has not been able to make a lot of plays for this team so far because Ausar has been so great on him.
And that's why I
defensively.
said with these other players, what are you going to go ISO with these guys? You're going to go ISO with Mikal Bridges and let him run pick and rolls, and now you're taking the ball out of Cat and Jalen Brunson's hands? Same
It's
thing
just
with
not
the Mitchell
smart.
Robinson. You can only use them for like 20 minutes a game if you see the way that this box score is breaking down, because what did you see tonight? They didn't put up enough offense. So now you're trying to get into an out physical, tough matchup with the Pistons. Now you're trying to meet the Pistons that, well, we can put out Mitchell Robinson and we can OG Anunoby you to death and we can this. You can't.
And they
You
just look frustrated
what
in their
did
failure.
JB Bickerstaff said it out of his own mouth.
Yep.
We played to push the. If you want to play that with us, oh, we love
Let's
that. Because he
go.
said, we're going to push you to the edge and you're not going to be able to hang with us. Their only job is to make sure they keep their composure, the Pistons, as things get chippy, as the game gets late.
Remember when the
as
04
calls
Pacers
don't
thought
go
they could
their
do the
way.
same thing?
But they have more dogs, at least in the state. They have more horses in the stable.
you're right about that.
This Knicks team doesn't have it. If your big play is, we can run Mitchell Robinson. See, look, they thought we were going, well, we can run Stu. Bro, no, all of our guys are trying to play defense and hustle. You guys are talking about, well, our physical guy is Mitchell. I'm telling you, go and look at the defensive stats from even our point guard in Cade Cunningham. He is one of your better two-way players in all of the league.
Absolutely. One of the best.
That's what I'm saying. So now you get all these players. You look at even a guy like a Tim Hardaway who leads
Schroeder.
our teams in charges taken. Schroeder, who's done a really good job at making Jalen Brunson
Work.
work.
Can the Knicks win
Man,
if Jalen
I
Brunson?
might hit something with the bat, man.
Can the Knicks win without Jalen Brunson scoring 30? Because I don't think they can.
I don't believe
No.
they
And
can.
the amount of effort that it's taking him
Right.
to get over 30, the amount of effort it's taking him to get over 30 points right now,
Exactly.
I just don't see it sustainable.
That's
throughout the
fine.
season.
That's fine, Brunson. Get 30, 40.
Talk
but
your
if it's
talk,
but if
Platty.
it's on 28 shots, if it's on
Exactly.
30 shots, you lost.
Yep.
You lost that game. It's about the efficiency. It's about making him work for it. And that's what the Pistons are doing, and that's fine. That's what they're trying to do to Cade. They just can't, because guess what? They don't have the same matchup, the same answer for Cade with OG Anunoby that we do with Brunson with Ausar.
Did you see any Knicks not named Jalen Brunson want to shoot in the last 5 minutes of that game?
No.
Because I didn't see anybody
No.
want the ball in their hand.
And I didn't see anybody happier in that arena than fucking Jalen Brunson himself when Ausar got 6 fouls. He held up
Oh,
that
yeah,
shit.
the
He was
6
thinking
up?
about that
that
all
big old
game.
red lump on his face.
He was thinking
Yep.
about that all game. He was thinking about just when can he get Ausar away from him. Guess
because
what?
you know Ausar said, "Are you having trouble defending? What are you having any troubles defending Brunson?"
yeah.
Nope.
And guess what? Ron Howard's going to get 3 minutes, 6 minutes on him in game 3. And you know what? I don't care if he follows him 6 fucking times. That physicality,
Yeah.
he's going to make it work. 6 minutes, 6 fouls is
Hey.
perfectly fine with me with Rod Holland.
And we've seen that
That's all
recipe
you
already.
need.
What does Stu do in that last home game against that last regular season game at home against the Knicks?
Bucks. Oh.
He fouled out.
Oh yeah.
But my man had one of the most just magical stat lines of all time. It was like, yo, he only had 6 rebounds and a couple blocks. Why is everybody tripping about Stu? Well, because he put Cat in jail.
That's right.
And it was just on the precipice of these playoffs. So they got a preview of that already. And they came into this season, this series, discombobulated. That's why I love what happened. You employed everything you thought you needed to try and stop Cade. One of Cade's favorite screen and rollers, when he gets the time with Stu, because Stu sets the best screens on the team. Think that's what I'm saying. This isn't one of those wins that if you don't get game 2, it starts to be piling up in terms of how demoralizing it can be
Yes.
to a team's psyche. And this is where, what did the old going to work and bad boys teams do? From a mental standpoint, if they smell blood in the water, they are pouncing on it.
Stepping
and that's
on
where
the
this
neck.
Pistons team, you have to grow up. This is why I'm glad they got those 4 vets. How savvy was it to go and grab that extra vet
Yeah.
at the deadline?
No
The
doubt.
Pistons turned into buyers. And now they have a great opportunity to
And
go.
they bought him for nothing.
And they got it for nothing. And that's the thing. Think about how their offense runs. Think about it. When I'm talking about the fact that they don't really have too much offense that they're running outside of Jalen Brunson with the ball in his hands. Well, we got Schroeder at the deadline. We're not just going to talk about what he did tonight. He led the team in assists to turnover ratio. After that, he came here and was averaging an assist to turnover ratio at the tune of like 4.29. That is incredible. And he was one of your top players off of the bench at doing that. Yeah. And so it's like the Pistons have several players who they've been able to put the ball in their hands, whether they are the main point guard or the off-ball guard, who have all had some success. What did we see from Marcus Sasser down the stretch of the season? We saw Sasser have a lot of success down the stretch of this season, and I believe that these offensive tweaks and these players being able to all run the system, obviously Cade is going to do it the best, but all of these players having some semblance means now you can run offense, whereas the Knicks, they have to rely on their guys getting it only in transition. But we see Ron Holland and Sasser and even some of the less heralded guys able to score in the half court. This is where, even with Tobias, able to score in the half court. We've seen Malik able to score in the half court. Hopefully he gets off the snide. But their just makeup of a team overall is so much more chemistry oriented, in my opinion, than what you see on the Knicks side.
Chemistry and depth, man. Think about all of the beers and pizzas that were celebrated over earlier today when the news that Isaiah Stewart wasn't playing, and how all those Knicks fans and that whole team must be feeling that we lost without that nasty mofo out there, because he's going to be back. And I'll tell you what, if you guys want to celebrate over some beers and pizzas, join us on Thursday. We will be downtown at Buddy's Pizza, live draft party, Pistons watch party, and then the Pistons post game. We will all be down there. Make sure you come and join us Thursday night. What are we kicking off at, about 8?
I believe so. I believe so. I believe the game time is 8.
Yeah, so come and join us, chat. We appreciate you guys being in here. Maybe we'll get some Knicks people back, but I don't think so, because I think we're going to hand them their ass on Thursday night. You guys want to get to some predictions?
Let's get, what, Game 3 predictions?
Yeah.
Hey, let's get to some game. Rod, why don't you kick us off with your Game 3 prediction? Detroit Pistons are coming home.
Series?
For Game 3.
Game 3? Oh, Game 3?
I mean, you could talk on the series, too.
But
at least Game 3.
Are we going to have Beef Stew back this game?
I think we will.
I don't know,
so.
but he gets a little extended rest. Inflamed knee is what they say.
It's a dub regardless. I just want to know if it's going to be double digits, or, we might have a little single. But if we got Beef Stew back, hey, listen, 10 plus.
Nice.
10 plus?
10 plus.
Nice.
You feeling they're going to win the series?
Oh, 100%.
6 or 7?
No hesitation.
No hesitation.
6
bro.
games?
I'm going to say 6 just because I'm a Detroit native. I'm going to say 6.
There you go. Win it at home, right?
Definitely. 100%. Fuck a chopped cheese.
Hey, you know what?
Statue of
I saw
Liberty.
Willie B in the chat today. You know what he told me in his game prediction early on, Woo? That New York Knicks are going to be chopped cheese tonight. So we get another chopped cheese reference.
Yeah.
That's right.
Platte,
Yeah.
one of our Pistons correspondents here at the network. What up, though, brother? How's this thing going? And are you willing? So, Game 3 prediction, and are you willing to update that series prediction?
I am willing to update.
Yes,
A man can admit when he's wrong. A man can admit when he's wrong. And I was wrong. I said, let me reevaluate after 2 games. But what I have seen is I have seen a team that has been better for 2 games and split both of them and now has home court advantage. The Pistons are winning this series in 6.
boy.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Fuck the Statue of Liberty.
I'll let you go last. I think that this is exactly what Piston fans have been waiting 18 years for. This is the team to be excited about, not just this season, but the future. The core is 25 or younger. We've got money next season, and we've got Jaden Ivey coming back. I think that Pistons fans that were sleeping still have woken up. I think that LCA will be rocking. It'll feel a hell of a lot like the Palace used to. I think we get Stu healthy, and I think that this is a game that feels out of reach and desperate for the Knicks all game long. There'll be moments that it'll be close, but I'm seeing the Pistons winning by 9.
Hey.
111 to 102.
I absolutely love that. And I love the way that you painted the picture for us, because it's what I continue to see in this series too. And they almost had it in game 1. They cleaned up some things in game 2, and you saw them. It was a stranglehold. It got tight, and it got, to the point where I definitely sweated through everything tonight. But I saw this team be cool, calm, and collected, even through some of the missed shots. Because how many times have we seen or we get this feeling, or especially over the last couple of years, they miss a few shots and downhill from here. Yeah. This team responded. They could have folded on the road, went back home, said they had a good season, and instead they put themselves in a position where all of Detroit is fired up, man.
They
And
are,
I see
man.
Burn $2 super chase. His Twitter's crushing Brunson for his flopping, and I do believe that Game 3, it has the makings of a flop for the New York Knicks. You're talking about this energy and the fired up aspect that Ron Holland and Sarr Thompson are going to play with. I believe that JB Bickerstaff, when you're talking about chess pieces, he does have chess pieces. Asar hasn't really gotten going in this series, and he's going to be frustrated and pissed off. I believe, as much as you say, I want to see Cade Cunningham be aggressive offensively, I think that there are some sets you can run to get Asar going, and I do believe the Pistons are going to find themselves in a position where they are bullying a Knicks team who they're going to get a couple days rest here, but a Knicks team who's just not ready to match their level of physicality, their level of hustle on every single play, and the Knicks are not going to have enough dogs to get it done. This is going to be one in which the Pistons go out there and they're winning it 117-103.
All right.
Let's
I
go.
love it. Well, we got a couple more predictions in the chat here. Skydog's got a 104.96. Don't ask. I'm going to assume that's the Pistons.
All right, Sky.
Anakin Skygore, he's going 113.90. He likes the Stones by 20.
Still holding them under 100.
I think I saw a couple other ones in here somewhere, but, I listen. This team has so much momentum and confidence right now, and the Knicks are playing on their heels. They're playing tired already. Cat disappeared in the second half after already disappearing in the first half. So get your tickets, Detroit. Get to that game. Paint your faces up. Pull your gear out. Pause. Your Pistons gear out.
Whoa.
But show up, guys. Show up. Get your family and friends together. And if you're not going to the game, make sure that you're watching at home. We've been talking since November, December. People need to be talking about this team, and they finally are. The Pistons deserve it because they've earned it. So make sure you're ready Thursday night, guys. Come and join us down at Buddy's. Get into LCA, or make sure you got some pizza at the house with the fam and friends. This is a hell of a 3.0 bad boy squad we are watching right now, man.
I'm
Hey,
ready,
you
dude.
know what? Tap into all of the shows tomorrow morning.
Oh,
Starting
it's gonna
with
be
Wake
fun.
Up Woodward. I gotta get home because we got a show starting in a little bit.
You don't want to
Yeah.
go for another hour? I'm going to say, man.
I can go for another hour. You already know me.
No, you were burning the
This
oil.
was the
We gotta
third tee, man.
Hey, we're going to be doing this all week. We got a big night Thursday night draft, as well as the Pistons' second win in this series. And then you got to get back up and do it Friday morning again. So we will be here early and often. I'll be back at 2 to 4 with Stick again at Ermanni and Edwards. I know you guys are going to hold it down in the morning, man. I cannot wait for the first meaningful playoff game in Detroit in 18 years, man.
Absolutely.
Hey,
This is
you
our
know-
debut album.
Hey, I just want to say shout out to our entire team here at Woodward Sports too, and people who are continuing to step up into some big roles as well. So thank you guys. Thank you, chat family, for being here. We saw the chat absolutely light up with a lot of different Pistons fans who are ecstatic for this win and what this can mean. This is hope, man. This is hope, and I can't wait to see LC rocking in Game 3.
They all like blowouts,
Hit us
man.
up.
Everybody thinks we're winning by 20.
Hey, you know what? Gromit said it's April in the D. We got the draft this week. We got the Pistons on the heater. We got the Tigers. They've only lost 2 series.
Did they win today?
Yeah, 6-4.
They did?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, they got
Who got their save? Canely?
Hey, listen, the Padres came in 16-6, and now they're 16-7. The Tigers moved to 14-9 on the season, and they still hold on to their AL Central lead.
April in the D, baby. April
go.
in the motherfucking D.
Let's
go, man.
Let's go. I think that's the show, bro.
I think it is.
I think it
Hey,
is.
you know what? No, I'm gonna do the chest pass with you too, man. I know we do this on Woodward, but let's rock. Oh, there we go. That's a bucket,
I
man.
was coming back.
That's
There
a
we go.
bucket.
Through the glass to Platte. Let's go.
Hey, if you didn't get opportunity to tonight, go on ahead and smash that like button. Run up the likes. Make sure that this has an opportunity to wind up on the feed of some New York Knicks fan out there. So
That's
let's
right.
run up the algorithm here. Let's run up these likes.
Hey,
and let's
stay
have
on
some
until
fun.
we get to 200 here, guys. We're at 190. We need 10 of you to hit that like button.
Hey, let's rock.
Let's get to
we'll put in that
200,
work.
guys.
We'll put in that work. And I'm telling you, look, Wake Up Woodward gets going at 8. I got to get up. I'm going to be doing some prep when I get home, probably get a couple hours of sleep, do some more prep, and be right back to this. And I remember talking to guys like Stick, talking to guys like you, talking to guys like Platte, Rod Beard, who's been with us for a long time on the Woodward Pistons podcast, Jeff Iafrey, the guy who helps me start
Young
this
legend.
and others. And it was like, listen, one day this is going to be so worth it. And Rod Beard covered them as a credential beat reporter for 7 years and then still stayed in the camp even when he became sports editor-in-chief of the Detroit News. But he never got to cover a team that he said had this much hope. And for his last season, his last year at the Detroit News, to be this season, because now he's down at the AJC, it's ecstatic, man. And we get this opportunity, all of us here, to be able to cover this stuff. And honestly, shout out to a lot of the Pistons fans that I know have been in the trenches going back to the beginning of the restore, man.
Absolutely.
We all deserve this,
This
man.
feels like
this feels amazing.
1987 and
Finish the job, though.
2002, man. This team is on their way.
Hey, I think we got those likes, man. Shout
We
out to
did.
the chat family.
213,
did.
man. You guys are awesome. We appreciate you. You good over there?
Ready
I
for some
am.
sleep?
He's great.
I am like hopped up, bro. I probably shouldn't have drank the last bottle of tea. I'm not going to sleep for like 3-4 hours. But this is what we do this for.
It is.
This is what we do this for. You've been here for a long time, Platte.
Yeah.
You've been here since what, 4?
4 years, yeah, 4 years.
And today,
4
even at
years.
what, like since 4 or 5 o'clock, even.
I've
Yeah.
been here since 1. It's the
Since
longest
1?
I've ever been here.
Dog, man. This is what this is about. This is what we asking for our Pistons to grit and grind this out. This is their identity, man, and I can't believe we get the opportunity to be able to cover them right now. It's been dope also having Rod in the building too, having another perspective. Hey, shout out to you, shout out to Platte, bringing the
Yes,
bringing
sir.
the homies around. And
Absolutely.
we need more of this. We need more of this, man. I'm gonna talk to Stick, see what we can do to potentially have some of our chat family here in the building with us.
Absolutely.
I'll see you on Thursday, my friend. Downtown. I hope you guys join us.
I'm gonna stop by Buddies and then run over to the arena.
That's right.
Let's
Best
rock.
pizza in the land. We'll see you Thursday.
All right.
And tomorrow morning, don't forget, Woo Crew.
Hey, go Pistons. Pistons in 6.
Pistons is 6.
Hey, let's rock.
We don't like to brag that we are the toughest sports network in Detroit. But we do have a guy named Darren